In 1865, upon the death of his father, Leopold I, a new king ascended the throne of Belgium. Leopold II, though Belgium was a small European nation, its new monarch had grand ambitions. He saw the great European empires, Britain, France, Spain, expanding across the world, amassing vast colonies. But Belgium had no empire, and Leopold wanted one of his own, his dream, to carve out a colony for wealth, power, and personal glory. But what followed would become one of the darkest and most brutal chapters in history.
By the late 19th century, European powers were racing to colonize Africa. But Leopold had a different strategy. Instead of taking land through direct military conquest, he used deception. He founded an organization disguised as a humanitarian mission, calling it the International African Association. He claimed he wanted to bring civilization, Christianity, and trade to the people of Central Africa, but his true goal? Exploitation and profit. At the Berlin Conference of 1884-85, where European powers divided Africa among themselves, Leopold successfully convinced world leaders to grant him personal control over a vast region in Central Africa, what would become known as the Congo Free State. This was not a Belgian colony. It was Leopold's private possession, a kingdom over which he ruled with absolute power.
Once in control of the Congo, Leopold exploited its vast natural resources, ivory and rubber, to feed the growing demand in European markets. He established a brutal system of forced labor where millions of Congolese people were enslaved, tortured, and murdered in the name of profit. The methods were horrifying. Villages were burned to the ground if they did not meet their rubber quotas. Workers were beaten, starved, and mutilated. The most infamous punishment? The severing of hands. If a worker failed to meet his quota, his hand was cut off as proof of punishment. Entire communities lived in fear and suffering, trapped in a system of terror created for the greed of one man. European officers and mercenaries, known as the Force Publique, enforced Leopold's rule with unspeakable cruelty. Millions of men, women, and children suffered beatings, starvation, forced labor, and executions. Resistance was met with massacres, and all the while Leopold presented himself to the world as a benevolent ruler, claiming he was bringing civilization to Africa. But the truth was far more sinister.
For years, the horrors of the Congo were hidden from the world. Leopold controlled all information coming out of his colony, ensuring that reports of atrocities were buried or dismissed. But the truth could not be suppressed forever. Journalists, missionaries, and whistleblowers exposed the truth. The most famous was Edmond Denis Morel, a British journalist who uncovered the shocking reality. While ships arrived in Belgium full of rubber and ivory, they returned to the Congo carrying only guns, chains, and whips. He realized that no fair trade was taking place. Only mass exploitation and slavery. Another voice of outrage was Joseph Conrad, who visited the Congo and later wrote the novel Heart of Darkness, a chilling fictionalized account of the cruelty he had witnessed. The global pressure grew, and by 1908 the scandal had reached its peak. Belgium was forced to take control of the Congo from Leopold, turning it into an official colony, the Belgian Congo. But the damage had already been done.
Leopold II never set foot in the Congo, but his rule led to one of the greatest humanitarian disasters in history. Estimates suggest that between 8 to 10 million Congolese people died during his reign, half the population of the country. Millions more were left traumatized and displaced. Leopold had turned a vast region of Africa into a personal business empire, amassing an enormous fortune. At the time of his death in 1909, he was one of the richest men in the world. He used his wealth to build lavish palaces, monuments, and gardens in Belgium, some of which still stand today. But history did not forget his crimes. Though Belgium removed his name from many public buildings, his brutality in the Congo remains a stain on his legacy.
Even after Leopold's rule ended, the Congo's suffering continued. Belgian rule remained exploitative, and the scars of his reign persisted for generations. The exploitation of resources, the instability, and the violence that followed can all be traced back to the foundations he laid. Today, Leopold II is remembered not as a great king, but as one of history's most ruthless rulers. His actions in the Congo are now recognized as one of the worst human rights atrocities of the modern era.
Leopold II did not conquer the Congo with soldiers. He conquered it with lies, deception, and greed. He convinced the world he was a humanitarian while secretly orchestrating a genocide for profit. He turned an entire country into a personal factory of human suffering. His story serves as a warning, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, imperial greed, and the consequences of exploitation. The voices of the millions who suffered under his rule must never be forgotten. In the end, Leopold II gained his empire, but at what cost?
Though Leopold II built monuments to glorify himself, his true legacy is written in the blood and suffering of the Congolese people. His reign was one of cruelty, deception, and greed, and history will forever remember him not as a king, but as a tyrant.